This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Welcome to Season 3 of Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty alongside my co-host Daren Smith. Each week, we'll go in-depth with guests, industry experts, and we'll even share our own experiences, all with the goal of demystifying the independent film process. This season, it's all about the script, from the first spark of an idea to a polished final draft, breaking it down for scheduling, budgeting, and ultimately shooting. We'll walk through every step it takes to get from page to production. Welcome to Truly Independent. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Truly Independent. I'm your host, Garrett, and with me is the host, Daren. Daren, how was that for an intro?
We're both the hosts. There must be a word for that when two people are hosts of things.
Yes, the duo host.
The
I think
duo
we're the
hosts.
duo host.
We're the host pair. Thanks
If we only-
for being here today. This is exciting.
If we only knew a good writer that could help us piece some things together. Who's
What
this
a
with us?
setup.
I could give you a couple names.
The voice you're hearing is my dear friend David Plyler. David, it's so nice to have you on the episode today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome to be here. And I think the word you guys were looking for was co-hosts.
Co-hosts.
I knew it, Garrett. I knew there was a word.
See, it's like, I am a writer to some degree.
That is why you are here.
That's why I'm
Absolutely.
here right here.
Yes, as you know, let's see, David, we've mentioned we are focusing this season on writing and screenwriting, everything from the, coming up with this idea to the script, to the rewrites, to read-throughs, and to even a little bit of a breakdown. And that's the breakdown of the script, not breakdown of the writer.
Yeah, just their
that
psyche, which it requires actually to be decent at it.
Yeah. So I am so excited that we actually have a writer with us, a person who I have followed their work and been a fan of their work, and have enjoyed our lunches together. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about your experience. David, would you just mind giving us an introduction, kind of your background?
Absolutely. So it might take an hour or two and unravel some of my therapy, but
This will be our 4-season episode.
That's right. You just cut me off if I'm going too long. But I have loved. I hated English as a kid, but I've loved story and entertainment. So way back in high school, I was making notes for movies. But I grew up in Oregon and didn't feel like people who made this stuff they were foreign, aliens, and I never could have ended up there. But went through school, graduated BYU in advertising and music, but I was doing some acting stuff while there, and I just caught the bug and moved to LA, beautiful downtown Burbank. And so was there and hung out in Studio City for a while and became a SAG-AFTRA actor and did the whole audition thing, and had some health issues and whatever that kind of kept me from really being present. And so I pivoted into writing just to help tell. I just had story I wanted to get out. Ended up going back to grad school at UCLA and in film, and so got a master's in film with an emphasis on screenwriting. So just was living the dream there. Got married along the way, started having kids, and we moved 2 hours from LA. And that's when I made the pivot, because I was like driving 5-hour round trip for a 3-minute milk audition. And I'm going, I can't do this. So I started writing and started doing local stuff in Temecula, California, which is southeast of LA. And then we went back. My wife was Kathy was beyond supportive, and we ended up moving 5 kids to student housing at UCLA. And
Is that right?
So we were living right on Sepulveda and the 10. And
wow.
And we did that for I was in school for 3 years, but we lived there for 2. And it was great memories. Our kids went to school, the little Clover Clover Elementary. 36 languages were spoken there. This might
Is
not
that
matter
right?
to anything, but it just the sacrifice to learn the craft. A lot of people don't need to do that, but I'm just a slow learner, so I had to do that. I felt compelled to. So UCLA was
Well,
awesome. And do you have a question?
well, I was only an interruption.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, but no, I was saying it is interesting that you took the time to learn it, and it shows. Like
yeah.
others maybe don't do that, and it also shows.
I mean, like I said, I'm just a slow learner. But the interesting thing in UCLA was that, they're really training people to express themselves, to figure out who they are and what their voice is. And we would sit around, and there were like world class, you know, teachers that would come in. At the time, Mike Werb was one of our teachers, and he had just written Face Off with Mike Caleri, and then went on to do The Mask and things. And so to actually learn from guys who and gals who were doing it was pretty cool. And so we would table read scripts, and this is one of the things that I follow somebody named Audrey Knox, probably getting ahead of our story, but she has just in the last couple of weeks, she talked about how you can't just keep writing and writing and writing in a vacuum and think you're going to get better. You just kind of
Mm.
keep repeating the same problems. And Lou Hunter, who was like the chair of the department at the time, his favorite thing to say was "right on," WRITE.
Yeah.
And but in years since, it's like you do have to keep learning. So I'm an old guy now at this point, but I just learned some fabulous things in the last couple of weeks. It's
What
really
are you doing? What are you doing to keep learning? Are you, I mean, aside from just writing, are you reading others or doing read throughs or what?
Yeah, all of the above. It's like I'm always reading scripts and always doing like listening to podcasts and participating in webinars. And I
It
let
sounds
me let me
exhausting.
keep going with the story, and I'll and if at the risk of boring you and anyone listening, but so I became I'm a very faith based guy, and our family is. And so when we sat around this and did a table read, there were like 10 grad students and the instructor, the professor, and we would read everybody's script, and they would parse out roles. And because of my extensive acting background, I wanted to dive in and do the read of one of the characters, but I would always edit. I was always edit their the language, right? So they quickly moved me to reading the direction, the business, and all the descriptors. And
You're like, wait, I didn't get the same
yeah,
line as you did. I didn't. I
yeah,
say that again with a
golly
lot of.
gee, Batman.
Yeah, yeah. It's the only read through that they're asking you for a take two.
Exactly. So I was the family film talking dog guy. I was writing a talking dog script back at that time, and but it was awesome. And I got to learn, at the feet of all these people, and went on to keep just writing and writing and writing. And for a long time, I kept repeating the same problems, like this Audrey was talking about. And then we ended up moving, from LA to Utah, and I hooked up with an old time buddy to do film, which is kind of backwards, and most people want to go to LA. And so we came out here, and it just and did a couple indie films, and I can talk through some of the highs and lows of that if you want. But it's yeah, the thirst for continuing to learn, continuing to get better. And let me just share what it's really wild, because I've had two produced now, and 30. This is embarrassing, but I've written 30 screenplays, and
Oh, there's nothing embarrassing about that.
my
That's, I mean,
batting average is
you
not
gotta.
good. I would be traded and down to the farm club, but and yeah, we can jump in. I mean, you guys are far more expert in the indie space and getting things made, but I can tell you some highs and lows if that helps.
Well, I mean, I'm curious. I'm curious about the advice that was kind of your takeaway from your UCLA instructor and then also what was that first one that got made and kind of what that felt like.
Yeah, and that leads to like some really important points. So the problem with the UCLA program for me was that I wasn't participating in like in networking like I could have probably should have. I didn't go to like a lot of the class would go hang out at the bar and go to clubs and clubbing and things after, and I was I think the oldest in my program. I think there were 60-ish in grad school at the time, and I was there were five who were married,
Mm.
and a couple had kids, and then we had five. So I was older. I was in my mid 30s when I went back to school, and
Okay.
and so it was you know I was juggling family. I also had a business, a souvenir company at the time, so I was like stretched beyond thin. So
Oh my word.
which leads me to one of my key points that I would love to share. I get a lot of questions about, from younger people who are in school and want to do this, and I always tell people to double major if they're studying film to any degree. I always recommend that they double major because there are lean times, especially well in any side of the film, but in indie film, it seems like most particularly, and you have to have something to fall back on. Um,
So like philosophy, film and philosophy is my mate.
that's right. That you might want to change from philosophy to law, which is very close. Um, but I actually had a fabulous adjunct professor named Rich Eustace who had just come off of Head of the Class. He was one of the producers, if you remember that sitcom way back in I think it was late '80s.
Mhm.
But he just great. I'm a New Yorkish kind of guy, and just said it like it was. And I was taking a professional program class at the time up at Universal City Walk, and I still remember being there. And I was struggling with trying to run the business and having all these kids, and he just said, if you don't have your financial life squared away, uh, it will be almost impossible to create.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so
Mm.
he actually recommended that I drop his class. I had taken another class from him prior, but and it was great advice because you can't, if you've got, how am I going to pay the bills, but you want to sacrifice for this dream, it's there. Woof. And so
That is a challenge of I mean, I think the nature of what we're in, the industry that we're in is that is inherently difficult. Film is such an art form, and it's the most expensive art form there is, and there has to be a way to figure out how to feed your family and provide for your needs and still create. And if it's not coming from film, if the stress of I'm going to pay my bills with this creative endeavor, that that I think skews some of the decisions that you'd make creatively.
Mhm.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
the
you've got it's
financial pressure being put on a creative project, it's not fair to the creative project, and it's not fair to the financial side either, because neither are going to serve each other. They're really at odds, like you mentioned. So I think it's important to hear stories of people who have gone through it and say, you know, broaden the perspective a little bit. It's not the recommended course is not, head down, hustle, work as hard as you can, take 3 jobs, whatever you got to do and grind it out. It's no, take a step back and see like how can you do this holistically so that you give space to the creative work while also, like you said, taking care of the financial side.
I mean, there's obviously got to be some sort of upside, right? Because we're in it to try to get a movie made or something like that, and you've written 30 screenplays. What is it like then? What is that reward, David? What does that feel like when one goes through? I mean, is that what drives you to do it again and again and again?
That's a great question because I just love creating the world so much that and this is where I'm a little psycho, but it's like I become friends with these people, and
With
you
your
know,
characters that you're
yeah, with
writing?
the characters, they're on the
Mm.
page, and I become friends with them, and so every time I go back and I work on it again, it's like I'm going to another community. I'm going back to see some old friends, and so you obviously you've made film, and there's nothing that really can replace, hearing an audience besides just myself and my wife and my kids, laugh when they're supposed to laugh or cry when they're supposed to cry. That is, that's a huge dream. I got into this because I wanted to be able to move people and make, help them see light and truth, but also just escape. It's like, life is kind of hard. And
Yeah.
and so to help people, get there and laugh and cry and come out feeling better and having a little bit of hope is huge. And it's really interesting because when we were when we had the financial struggle, it suddenly becomes, oh, this has to work. It has to sell. I have to get this set up. And
Yeah.
now it's not, I always talk about arrows out and arrows in. It's like, I try to be arrows out and help, and be thinking about how to help other people and everything. But when you're dealing with any kind of stress, health stress or financial or whatever, suddenly it's like, I've got to do this for me. And it's a whole different creative process, and it's icky. it's
It's not.
not,
Yeah. Yeah. It's not
it's
rewarding.
not what it's not what it's about. In fact, it's like, it reminds me of when I was acting and I just had to get this part, and you go on the audition and all, I'm all wound up and I have to get it. And it just doesn't, I would never get a part when I was in that mindset.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting yesterday with an actor who I guess the show knows him, Kirby Hayborn, and Kirby and I were chatting, and we were discussing about how to close the deal. We're working on some financing for some other things. How do you close this deal? How do you close the deal? And he said, I consider the deal closed when we get the meeting. Like that's
Yeah.
the term for him. The term is close the deal. And I thought, oh, that's an actor mindset, right? That's an actor where you say, hey, the audition is what that's my I get paid to audition, and then the making the movie is
Yeah.
whatever. That's extra. So was
Back on
Outlaw?
point to the movie being made, you were asking about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask, was it Outlaw Trail was the first
Yeah.
that went?
And so that was, and I'd done like a number of local kind of in indie plays and things
Okay.
in Temecula, excuse me, in our community, and so I got the bug, and I was in them and directed them and wrote them and kind of, had this. So it was the same kind of vibe. It just wasn't on, on tape, on film. But so with Outlaw Trail, this brings up some massively important points that they don't really. I mean, in film school, like, networking is a huge, huge point, and people want to work with their friends, and so it's just kind of a no brainer. And these are, filmmakers are real people, and so when I came out here, Brad Pello, who you guys probably know or know of,
Sure.
so we've been friends forever, and he said, just come on out here and we'll do some film. And so he's a business guy and brilliant, and so I mean, whatever he said, I'm still wondering if I love him or hate him. But it's like we uprooted 6 kids at that time
Mm.
and moved to Utah, and
Oh,
so it was, and we ended up connecting with, we hooked up with Ryan Little and Adam Abel, and they had just come off Saints and Soldiers, and we ended up getting put together like a 5-picture deal between our 2 production entities,
yeah,
and so the first one was Outlaw Trail. So the whole way it happened was knowing people, right?
yeah,
And so it's the problem with being a writer is that it's really interesting to see. This is where you guys need to put on your psychologist hats, and I'll find a couch. But it's uh, the problem with being a writer is it's so reclusive, and as an actor, I was a extrovert, and so I kind of more naturally an extrovert. But I through kind of turning into writing, I'm more becoming more of an introvert, and it's you have to force yourself to get out there and to meet people and take meetings, and you know pitch your baby, which is like, it's still hard for me to do that. It's like, I mean, we were at our last lunch meeting, you talked about, it's like, I mean, I shared a couple of ideas with you and I'm going, well, what if he doesn't like them?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to
That
hear you
never
say
goes
that.
away.
That would never be my reaction, but I can relate. I can 100% relate, and it is whether it's an idea or words on a page or filmed, media, a performance, and you're showing it to an audience that is this haunting feeling, and I don't know that ever goes away. I think what can go away is that the concern. Like, I mean, it's okay to say, hey, what if he doesn't like it? And I think, okay, how am I going to react to that? Whether I'm going to go run around and change or pout or listen or ignore is still my choice. And that, I think that's what's been helpful to kind of own that space.
Yeah.
What you just said, so key. Listening is huge because we get so close to things that it really is better to hear the critique early rather than sit in the theater, actually get it made, and then sit there and go, "Oh my heck,
You
why,
should
why
have asked some questions.
you know?" It's like, so you want to. It's hard because you got to put your baby out there, but then you have to just get it. I mean, I'm like, I mean, I didn't even plan on doing this, but I'm sitting here right now. I don't know if you can see this, these pages.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
showing a script with. It looks like there's more writing and scribble on it than there is typed word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is draft 8, 9 now.
Oh my word!
And this is just and I'm doing something that I hope ends up on Hallmark, but it's or something like it, but
Yeah,
and I've got, so what I send out when I get it to a place where I think it's kind of okay, I send it out to readers in LA, and in this one case I had a reader and then a producer give notes, and it's like, I'm just going, you got to be kidding. It's like, I've written so much, but it's awesome. And
yeah.
so I'm at the point now where I'm going, if they've got experience, I'm trusting, and especially when that's why it's important to get more than one piece of feedback. If you get 2 or 3 pieces of feedback and they overlap and they agree on certain things, I'd listen.
You got to listen to that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always you've either written the best thing in the world that's ever been written and cannot be improved, or somebody's going to have a way to make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's probably good to try to. I can guarantee you, at least for me, it's the second one.
For sure. So back on Outlaw Trail, it was an awesome experience because it was the first film that I had done, and the collaborative process with Ryan, the director, getting notes from Brad, from Adam, from their mother-in-laws, whoever that it came from, it made it better. And so when you as a writer, in film, the writers gives way to the director and the production team. TV, if you want to kind of run the show, writers stay in TV. Because the writers become producers, right? But
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
so it was a fantastic learning experience. And then when we went on to Forever Strong was our second one, and that's had legs still. In fact, ironically, just on Monday night, I did a presentation. It's a group of retired people here in our community that got wind that I had written this, and so
Yeah.
I'm like listening to myself give this presentation after 15, 16 years or whatever. And
Yeah. I mean,
it was awesome.
what a show! What a project! I see you've got a rugby ball behind you,
Oh
and
yeah.
I just think, I mean, that movie that you created, I mean, was based on a true story, but to be able to sit and watch actors like Sean Astin and Gary Cole and Penn Badgley, right? They
Yeah.
all create these characters. What does that feel like as a writer?
It was phenomenal. It was that was the budget was 3 times what Outlaw Trail was, and the story obviously very different. It wasn't a period piece, and based on a true story. Getting to know Larry Gelowicz, that's one of the phenomenal things that I love about writing anything, is doing the research, is just diving in and really getting to know. In this case, getting to know these characters. I spent 13 hours interviewing Coach Gelowicz and his
Wow.
his assistant coaches in one session, and then we had alumni in another session, and then we had current players in another. We videotaped everything, and so we had 13 hours of this. And the hardest part was to cut away what we obviously couldn't use. It wasn't a mini series, so it's like we had to narrow it down to this less than 2 hour thing, and it's still these principles. When you touch on things that really touch people, it lasts. And so that's what's really awesome about this film, is that now if we want to get down into the nitty gritty of indie film, Forever Strong deserved to be released differently, and it deserved. And I'm not just saying that out of bias. I mean, there's some bias, but it's done really well. It gets really high ratings on Netflix. It's been around the streamers, and the ratings are great, and people like it. They love it, a lot of it. But it didn't do well financially because of how it was released. Today, it probably would have never gone. They never would have tried to do a theater release. But they wanted to at the time try and get this into theater. Man, and you guys could talk about this better than I, but.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you that it wouldn't get a theatrical release today, but I think that there's wisdom behind how it was released. And I think that back then, what was it, 16 years ago,
to release it on, so what was it? 17
to release it on 500 screens with a very, very, very small P&A budget that maybe should have been on about 100 screens. And then it would have expanded, would have held screens and expanded. I think I agree with you 100%. It was released wrongly, and I know you were not a part of it. The filmmakers were unfortunately not listened to. But maybe that's another
conversation.
That's for another conversation. That's for another lunch conversation.
But but for your listeners, in retrospect, everybody was so high on the film, which deservedly so, I think, but they wanted to be too aggressive on the release. It should have started more regional, local. It was based on a Highland High Club team in Salt Lake City. So, and if they would have started it here and then had the patience to kind of roll it out and let it organically grow based on demand and word of mouth, it would have probably done really well. And so it's a lesson. Sometimes as filmmakers, we get so close to the project that we kind of lose what we should be thinking about. And in this case, I think everybody was drinking the happy juice. And
sure, I'm starting to believe your own hype.
Yeah,
Daren, you've got takes on that are so
for sure. I want to ask one or two questions, but first thing I should say, Dave, is that's our first shared credit. I was the assistant dialogue editor on Forever Strong with
seriously
Mike McDonough. Yeah, Mike did the sound, and I was interning for him at the time, and it was one of my first film credits was Forever Strong.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
We never interacted.
I didn't know
that. That's so fun.
That's awesome.
So, Daren, did you do the dialogue on the line that I think is so funny, and I say to my kids all the time, Dave, and I know I'm going to ruin it, but he says, Gary Cole says, if you spend your whole life, you work hard, you were in the gym from sun up till sundown, and one day you'll have a body like
mine. Have a body like mine.
Oh, my word. Yeah.
I'm sure I touched it. I'm sure I went over it.
You did. Well, great job to both of you then.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Daren, for helping out.
It's interesting though, and I kind of want to spend just a second on this because I think it's interesting. You talk about how the successes you've had, the two movies you made, came from these relationships with Brad, with Ryan, and Adam. I'm getting a lot of people who are interacting with the show and interacting with me online that are saying networking doesn't work. I try it all the time. And so how am I supposed to get my script read by a producer when they won't even respond to me? So I'm curious, because you've been doing this for your whole career. Like, what are the ways that you actually network that work for you?
Tough question, and a really astute one. I go through that all the time, and I've done the whole, query letter thing, and that's winning the lottery if you can get results from that. But you need to do it because people do win the lottery. But it really is, put yourself in positions to know people, and it depends on what your goals are. My goals, ironically, I never thought about doing indie film. I was in LA and for almost 20 years, and in and around, and so I was always studio, it's like, and so a lot of what I write are still, even to this day, bigger budget kind of studio level things, and boy, try and get something noticed in that realm, tough. So what works and what has worked, and I'm not that great at it, and so is just continuing to put yourself, like both of you, for instance. It's like I haven't worked on a project with either of you yet.
Well, Forever Strong, you and Daren.
Well, Daren and
Yeah.
I see that we have that
There you
bond.
go. Here you are
Look
now.
where we
16
are
years
now.
later, networking paid off.
But it's like, it's just kind of what this is an example, right? It's like we've met through other people, through other friends, through other filmmakers, and just kind of developed a friendship over the years. And Garrett, you and I almost did something, right? A couple
Very
times,
close. A
and
couple of times we had some projects in the pipeline.
yeah, and so it's just stick. I got to show you this. I'm gonna grab it. But this is,
Narrate.
so I don't know if you can.
My dad had that up on his office wall every single day. I saw that poster.
I've had this on my office. This is the actual one that they gave us at UCLA Film School. It's
Amazing.
30 years old, and it's like you don't. And there have been times where obviously we're the frog, and you just don't let yourself be swallowed. But there are times I've felt so, I don't want to say depressed, but discouraged, that I'm going, well, yeah, well, the stork would just start chewing and chop all his arms and legs off and then swallow him anyway. But
Yeah,
it's
this
like,
is the image of the stork that has a frog in his mouth, and the frog has his fist around the stork's throat, and they're both trying to survive.
yep. And then you just don't quit, right? It's like you just don't quit. And so if you love it, then you won't quit, and you just keep finding a way to make it work. And we don't have time to, or there would probably be no interest in telling you my war stories and where we are today. But it just takes loving it and wanting and feeling almost called to do it. Because I remember in film school, one of the professors said there's a lot easier ways to make money. And so if money is what you're about, don't hang out here, right? Go become an attorney or an investment banker or whatever. And
Yeah.
so you have to love the creative process and the collaborative process with other people, and then and that, the end result, if you're lucky enough and if you stick with it, you would be, to you know just keep going, and then you get the audience in a
Yeah.
place where you hope they would be.
But you
Darren,
echo
you
that,
asked
like,
about
sorry, Garrett, but you echo that it's relationships that led to the projects, not transactional queries or met somebody, shook their hand at a networking event, and then you had a script being produced. Like, that's not the way it happens. And so I just wanted to
Yeah,
wrap
and I
that
thought,
thought up.
did I answer you that all the way? It really,
I think so. Yeah, it's important to focus on the relationship, not
yeah.
just the transaction of meeting people.
Yeah, because
yeah,
I said it early on. It's like we all want to, you want to work with your friends. You want to be, and there are hundreds of stories of people who, send a script to a contest and they got it, it did well and they got picked up and whatever. So you just kind of have to do all of it, but don't do just the queries and the kind of the cold call stuff instead of really face-to-face networking, because it's scary or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
go to the party and go to the event and go to the, I've gone down to Austin Film Festival just to go down there and just to kind of hang out. And, nothing has come of that yet, but it's like, you just keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
for me, it takes. I kind of give myself about three times. I just went down to ICVM for the first time this year, and this time I went down as kind of an observer. I think we Help Them See Foundation sponsored, was a sponsor. And so I went down, but it was my first time and just realized, hey, this is going to be me out of my comfort zone for this time. Next year, I will go back. And at least recognize a few people that I met. And then by the third year, I think I'll be comfortable and like, okay. So it does take time, and the networking takes time. And I don't have the purpose of going down there to say, who's here to help me get my project done? But it's like, okay, who can I connect with and support and rally behind? And I think that that'll all come back to us.
Yeah.
And that speaks to, reminds me of another piece of advice that I got. It was like, when you're younger and haven't been fully beat up yet, it's like you kind of want everybody to like you, right? And you want everybody to like the project and everything, but it really is just meeting enough people until the right people kind of show up, because you just need you need it to be a cohesive, synergistic relationship. And so I'm at the point where when the right people show up, as long as I'm moving my feet, it can happen. And so I think that, and what struck me is when you just said that it was out of your comfort zone, and you're obviously a very seasoned filmmaker, and you've been around, but you still are doing things out of your comfort zone, and that's
Yeah.
huge. That's a big takeaway, is that we still find a way to do that. In fact, let me share one more thing, that because it's so hard to get indie film made, and I was talking about the financial thing. Years ago, I pivoted to the self-help book space, and so just so I could keep writing and things, and I became a ghostwriter. There are these self-help coaches, and like the Franklin Coveys and the Anthony Robbins kind of people. There are many of them who don't have writing skills, don't have the time to write, so they hire ghostwriters. So I've worked on a number of self-help books over the years, and one of them, I interviewed like over 100 C-suite,
C-suite.
yeah, execs, and one for this book, for partners in leadership at the time, and this guy who was a muck and Kohler, the toilet people, he said, I do at least one thing a day to get me out of my comfort zone.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and so I did that one. Of all the 100 plus, best practices, that one just landed for me, because it's like, here's this guy who's top of the food chain at a multi-billion-dollar company, and he still purposely does something to get out of his comfort zone. And
Sure.
so for
Wow.
all of us as filmmakers and writers, it's like, most writers, it doesn't take much to get us out of our comfort zone. Sending a text can be out of our comfort zone, but just do it, and keep on it, keep after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's such good advice. And if anything, for a writer, it gives you more, more input to write about, right? Hey, this is going to influence my script, and you've got to be able to come up with those ideas
For sure.
often. Well, very cool. So, David, what is it then? Have we settled? Have you answered the question, or have you intentionally dodged it?
I'm
About
sure I have dodged it.
two two movies in, you've had that, you've tasted like that experience of sitting in the theater, seeing your words come to life. Is that the drug, I guess, that drives somebody to keep going and say, hey, I'm gonna write another one and keep going? Or are we just all sick in the head? Like, what is it?
It's got to be some of both.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
there
right.
has to definitely be some insanity, the positive kind of insanity. And let me just address one quick thing, because you kind of brought it up. I hate bringing this up again, but it's like, so much of it is money, and you guys know this. It's like, to the way that these first two films got made, Outlaw Trail and Forever Strong, was because Brad had access to money, and he was good at getting it. And
Yeah.
and so because Forever Strong did not do well in the theater, the 5 picture deal kind of went away, right? So the other 3 films went poof.
Mm.
The investor that was committed pulled out. And so
Yeah.
it's critical to set things up financially so that your investors don't really expect something back. Come and see. I think you said, or what's your foundation?
Yeah, the Help Them See Foundation.
Help and see. So it's like, yeah, you guys know this, but you have to be able to sell yourself and the product, and that is one of the hugest takeaways for me in film school that they don't do. Is that they do not, at least at the time at UCLA, they did not teach these writers how to sell, and that's everything. It's, and I've had been privileged to meet a lot of really pretty wealthy people, and most of them, I still remember one guy. It's like I had this very worthy project and everything, and I was like all thinking I was going to change the world, and I thought he would catch the vision of that and want to help change the world too. And the first thing he said was, "Tell me how I'm going to get my money back."
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that?
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. They worked hard to get where they are, and they don't want to write a check just willy nilly, most of them. But learning how to sell and really being honest about, the upside, downside, and that's everything, because we can't get anything done without that, especially, with indie film. And so it's somehow
Daren,
we go take a sales class. We have
yeah.
to sell ourselves. We have to sell the product, the project, and it's taken me years to be able to get to that stage.
Darren, it feels like a perfect segue into a full-blown breakdown of the producer fund and what you're doing with your film fund. Because everything that David is saying, I think, is the skill set and the expertise that Daren brings.
Yeah,
So if you don't know how to do it, then you partner with somebody that does, and I think
100%.
yeah.
When you're highlighting the eternal problem in indie film is that everybody's really passionate about the craft of making film, writing film, directing film, acting in film, shooting film, and the business stuff before and after you're on set or writing the script is someone else's deal. But we don't get to do that middle part unless someone goes and raises the money, and unless someone does a good job distributing it, we don't get to make another one. So it's you're not unique, Dave. You're not unique in your example,
Sure.
because everybody has that same issue. And so it becomes like at some point you've either got to partner with or become the guy or gal that is going to say, well, I'm going to take more responsibility for a bigger part of the process so that we can keep making these things consistently.
Yep. And let me add that I think it's important for writers to connect with at least one other team member, a businessy producer kind of person. You guys are a great example, because I've found it's very hard as a writer to go pitch my own script to business people. It was way easier to have a Brad or some other business entity who were like-minded with the money people. It's not like, as the writer, oh, this is my baby, I want you to like it, I want you to like me. But having that second person validates it more, and it takes it to a different level. And so that's a huge piece of advice that I would dole out there, for what it's worth, is to if a writer can team up with a producer, and or producers, one project at a time, if you don't want to have a partner. But it just helps a lot.
Yeah. And I can't underemphasize just the value that you learn, that you still take away from the projects that perhaps aren't financially well received, and I think that as a writer, you approach your next project differently, and you've got another dozen scripts that that take what you've learned there. And you talk about Brad Pell being involved in that, and everybody losing money there, or at least it didn't go according to plan. Brad is now president of the Chosen, right? And so certainly um, took from whatever that was, and pivoted and created a model that has succeeded
For sure.
phenomenally.
Yeah.
Well, this David, you've been So open and transparent, and we said at the beginning, this podcast has never been accused of recruiting anybody to be a filmmaker. But
And you're saying we didn't change that, huh?
we didn't change that. We're all infected with whatever this is that makes us do this. So our hope is that we can demystify how to do it. So those that want to do it can do it and do it well. And you've contributed to that. So thank you very much.
Well, I hope so. And thank you for having me. It's great to hang out with both of you again.
Okay.
If people want to connect with you, Dave, where's the best place? Are you on Facebook, or do you have a website, or like where do you send people?
Well, that opens up a whole nother conversation about doing better with social media, which I don't do. And I have age prerogative on that one. But the best, I mean, you can just Google me, and a LinkedIn page is what I kind of lean on. And
okay. Well,
yeah.
Speaking Daren's language with LinkedIn.
Yeah. There you go.
I intentionally threw out a different platform just to mix it up today, but LinkedIn is where it's at, people. Get on LinkedIn.
That's one. It's not as hip. I should have said TikTok, and then I would have really, been cool.
There you go.
All right, sir. Well, I can't wait to let's get together for lunch, and thank you very much for being here.
Perfect. Very best of both of you. Good luck and all.
Dave.
Okay.
This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Thanks for joining us. If you are enjoying Truly Independent, please share and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the journey. Today's episode was edited by Michael Bradford and produced by 3 Coin Productions.